Good evening, Mr. Mayor. We are live.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the September 5, 2023 City Council Special Hybrid Meeting. I'm Mayor Salim Neese. This evening's hybrid City Council meeting is being brought to you by Zoom. We're also broadcasting live on MITV Channel 21 and on the city's YouTube channel. Welcome to all and thanks for joining us tonight. Council members, please have your microphones turned on for the roll call. City Clerk Andrea Larson, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Andral has not joined us yet. Councilmember Jacobson.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Councilmember Weicker.
Here.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum has not joined us yet, and Mayor Neese.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We have a quorum present. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Council, please mute and turn off your video to ensure that the U.S. flag is visible, and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We now move to approval of tonight's agenda. If there's no questions, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Weicker, seconded by Councilmember Reynolds. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Weinberg. Councilmember Weinberg.
Sorry, had my mute button on. Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobson.
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
And Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Motion passes. The agenda is approved. First on the agenda, we have AB 6315 2021 Financial and Accountability Audit Exit Conference, for which we'll welcome Deputy Finance Director Luan Tuttle. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, Luan Tuttle, your Deputy Finance Director. I'm just here to introduce our audit team with the State Auditor's Office. So I'd like to invite Wendy Choi, your Assistant Director of Local Audit, and Haji Adams, our Audit Manager, to the meeting. Feel free to turn on your cameras. Haji's going to present for us the results of the 2021 fiscal year accountability and financial audit. Take it away.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen here. All right. Are you all able to see my screen?
Sure can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for joining us today. So today is the EXA conference. So we're here to share the results of the city's most recent 2021 accountability and financial statement audits. My name is Haji Adams. I'm the audit manager for Team North King County. And Lorraine Nitta was a supervisor on the audit. She did have a prior commitment, so she was not able to join us today. But I am here with Wendy Choi, the assistant director. And then the presentation today is our summary of the audit results. To supplement that presentation, we have provided a packet of information for you all that includes copies of our draft audit reports that will be issued and also the exit agenda as well.
Green. Next slide, Haji.
Yes. It's
okay.
Not wanting to go right now. There we go. Sorry about that.
Okay.
It's working now.
And before Haji goes over the results of the fiscal year 21 engagement, I just wanted to take a moment to thank the council and the city for having us here this evening. For us as the Office of the Washington State Auditor, a public official auditors of public accounts, I just want to take a moment to just highlight why our audits matter. And for us, there's this increased trust in government. We are the official auditor of public accounts, so we are required by state law to come and audit the city of Mercer Island. And as a result, we all have that same objective, which is to be accountable to the public, be good financial stewards of public accounts. And so we hope that the relationship we have with the city provides that added level of assurance to the governing body and the community that the city is accountable for its public resources and that has the appropriate policies and procedures in place to safeguard public resources. As the official public auditor of accounts, our audits are independent, and we provide a transparent perspective on the city's operations and the financial statements that are presented and the accountability audit that we perform. We hope that the city does find value in any recommendations that we do provide to the city, as it would be added level of assurance to increase the city's efficiency and effectiveness of your government operations. At this time, what I'd like to do is actually hand it to Haji, who will go over the audit scope and the results.
All right, thank you, Wendy. So for your city, we conducted an accountability audit, and that covered the period of January 1, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. And the purpose of an accountability audit is to determine whether the city complied with state laws, regulations, contracts, grant agreements, and its own policies and procedures as well. And in addition, the audits looked at whether, in general, the city has adequate controls as well to safeguard public resources. So under the heading results, in brief, you'll see that our audit found the city's operations complied in all material respects with applicable state laws, regulations, and its own policies, and also provided adequate controls over safeguarding of public resources as well. And then for your reference, those results there are detailed on page 7 of your packet. And when we select specific areas for further review, we do conduct planning procedures, and that includes reviewing the meeting minutes of the governing body for the period. We also analyze trends, financial data, including payroll, vendor information as well. We also conduct risk assessments with several key staff and council members as well, and amongst other procedures. And then we do use a risk-based audit approach to select those areas for further testing based off of those planning procedures as well. So included on this slide, you'll see that we identified some areas that we reviewed. So the first is accounts payable, so general disbursements, credit cards, travel expenditures. So we did review purchases for valid business purposes, and also determined if that information was adequately supported and also allowable per city policy for that testing. Then we did do some procurement testing for public works. So we reviewed formal sealed bids for compliance, and that was the 2021 system improvement project, the permanent booster disinfection system for the city's reservoir and main pump station, and arterial and residential street overlay projects. So we did review compliance for bid law and prevailing wage requirements as well in that section. We also reviewed gross wages, payroll. So we determined whether gross wages were valid for those individuals that we selected for testing, that they were adequately supported as well. And then we did review open public meetings, compliance with meeting minutes, and executive session requirements as well. And that review includes reviewing official decisions recorded in the meeting minutes, making sure that a quorum is present, decisions are documented in the minutes, and that they're also approved as well. Then last but not least, we have financial condition. We did review for indications of financial distress. This is part of our baseline testing that we do at each entity that we audit. So we do evaluate the financial statements, key ratios as well, for any indicators of any potential financial condition or sustainability issues, which we did not identify. And along with the accountability audit, we also conducted a financial statement audit for the same period. And the objective of the financial statement audit is to issue an opinion as to whether the information included in the financial statements can be relied upon to make decisions. We're pleased to report that we're issuing an unmodified opinion. So that's a clean audit opinion on the city's financial statements. And this is the opinion that you do want to see and receive. And this opinion provides assurance that the financial statements are stated fairly and are materially correct as well. And also, it's important to note that our audits are conducted in accordance with government auditing standards. So those standards also require that we gain an understanding of the city's internal controls and processes that it goes through in preparation of the financial statements for audit. If we did identify any weaknesses or concerns in those processes that could or did result in any significant errors in the financial statements, we'd be required to bring that to your attention as well, and also include that information in our report. But we're pleased to report that we didn't identify any concerns in the city's processes that are required to be brought to your attention or included in our report. Then also, last but not least, again, audit standards require us to consider compliance with applicable state laws, regulations, and contracts, and also grant agreements as well, where there could be non-compliance that could affect the fair presentation of the financial statements. And you'll see that in your report, and you'll see that your report indicates that results of our tests disclose no instances of any non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. And those results are also detailed on pages 14 through 19 of your packet as well. And then in relation to the financial statement audit opinion that we give, professional audit standards also require that we share with you where there are any material or large misstatements that were identified and subsequently corrected by management. So we're pleased to report that there were no material misstatements identified during the audit. They were also required to note whether there are any uncorrected misstatements that remain uncorrected in the audited financial statements. So we've included in your packet a full listing of those items, but please note we've concluded that those items are deemed immaterial in nature, small, and they don't affect the overall opinion of the financial statements that are being issued. And we've also shared those with management as well, and we're confident that that will be worked on and corrected for next audit period as well, and future audits financial statements. And then we do evaluate certain risks that we like to share with you. So audit standards require that we evaluate the possibility that management may be able to circumvent internal controls or certain controls. And we're pleased to share that evaluation showed that there were no instances of possibilities where controls were circumvented as well. And then we do have some closing remarks. Pleased to report that the cost of the engagement is expected to be within the estimate that we previously provided. And then the next scheduled audit we just started actually last month, August 2023. And that's a financial statement audit, accountability audit, and a federal grant compliance audit as well. And then we've also provided an estimate for the next audit in your packet as well. And we've provided that for budgetary needs. And then the audit reports, so they're going to be published on our website. So we expect the reports to be published in about a week from today. You can sign up, be notified by email when the audit reports are posted to our website. You also provided a link as well. You'll receive a notification when the reports are finally released, and also provided some instructions on how you can obtain the report from our website. We'll also be sending a customer service survey. So we just ask that you please complete it. Let us know what went well, and also if there's anything we can do to improve on the audit experience for next time as well. And before we wrap everything up today, we'd like to thank Lawan, also city staff, for their cooperation and timely responses to all of our requests throughout the audit, especially since the audit was done remotely as well. And we'd also like to thank city staff for their commitment in strengthening the relationship with the Office of the Washington State Auditor as well.
Very good.
Yeah,
Thank you. So
that concludes our presentation.
We'll turn it over to council for questions if anybody has any questions. So Councilman Reynolds.
Yes, and I'm not sure if this question is for the city manager or for you, Mr. Adams, but I just want to get a little bit more color on the uncorrected items. I think I'm understanding from the city manager that some of those items were also an issue in prior audits. Is this just an issue of difference of opinion and on how they should be treated? How common are such differences of opinion? Should we be worried that we're out of sync with what other cities are doing? If you could just generally comment on that.
Right.
Sure. Let me jump in here, Haji, real quick. May I ask you to stop screen sharing so that we can see everybody back in their boxes? And then I'll invite Lawan Tuttle to join as well to help with the response there. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Sure. Councilmember Reynolds, I think the primary question was regarding the accrual of salaries.
And also the ARCH contribution as well.
Yeah, just for context, Haji and Wendy, our response when the council member asked that was really, so it's immaterial corrections that we did not or chose not to make for different reasons. And if you could just sort of add if that's typical in the audits that you see, or, just address council members' questions.
Well, Lawan, before we go there, since not everyone in the audience had the benefit of seeing the email question that was asked, can you just recap what Councilmember Reynolds asked and our response, and then we'll have Haji and Wendy respond.
Sure. Sorry. The questions were regarding uncorrected misstatements that we believe are immaterial, and auditors agreed those are immaterial. The first one was we do not account for the balance of cash in an Arch trust fund as cash that is owned by the city. So we do not include that on our balance sheet as an asset for the city. Management decision is that we would not pull those dollars back from Arch. And so we do not account for them. It is a low dollar amount, so it is considered immaterial. The second item is how we account for the accrual of payroll expenses. We post based on date paid as opposed to date earned. And the auditor's opinion is that we should be booking those expenditures in accordance to when they were earned as opposed to the date paid. So it's just a timing difference. It is material and not material based on their opinion units. So it just rises to the level of something that they call out as a misstatement that is not corrected.
Very good. Councilmember.
I actually didn't get my question answered. I apologize. So I understand Ms. Tuttle's answer, but I haven't heard from Mr. Adams. I get the impression from city staff that we've just been doing it this way and will presumably continue to do it this way, and that things are immaterial, which I understand. But Mr. Adams in his comments said something to the effect of, we're confident these will be corrected in future audits. So I'm trying to reconcile those. Is it important that we do correct these?
Right. So they're immaterial. So I'd say they're not required to be corrected. Now, when it comes to payroll, we typically do see it on accruals being presented in the financial statements, right? Because they're immaterial, that's fine. It's okay. It doesn't mislead the reader of the financial statements. So it's up to the city if you'd like to correct those in the future. But because they haven't risen to a material number in nature, you do not have to do that. So if you do so choose next year on your financial statements to not have those numbers updated, that would still be okay because they'd still be deemed immaterial in the financial statements.
So I take it it's not particularly unusual for a city to have a few immaterial items like this show up and persist on the uncorrected items list?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Jacobson.
On page 9 of the report in our packet indicates that the amount of the audit was estimated to be $77,400, and it will presumably cost that amount. And then it further down in that paragraph it says the next audit will be $95,900 based on new rates. That's about a 24% increase. What is it more we're getting, or is this just the state's desire to go, soak more money out of the cities it's auditing?
Right, and I can answer that question. So effective January 1st of 2024, our office does have a rate increase, which we communicated to our local governments. We bill currently at $128 an hour. And with the new billing rate, that's the increase that you're seeing. The majority of our expenses is salaries and wages. And so there were some changes for that affects the 2024 rate. There was a cost of living adjustment that the governor had approved for state employees, and it's 4% for July 1st of 2023, and then another 3% for July 1st of 2024, as well as the governor recognized the value of having state employees and being able to retain state employees. And so as a result, there was a state employee retention payment that was included for the upcoming biennium. So our biennium is the new biennium July 1st of 2023 to August 31st of 2025. And so what happens when there are those changes that come through the state budget and the governor, we have to then take that into consideration when we look at our hourly rate. And so factoring in the cost of living adjustment and the employee retention payment, that resulted in a rate increase, the majority of that rate increase.
Then I'd like to add also for the next scheduled audit, we do have a federal grant compliance audit that we have to conduct as well. So that's around additional 60 hours in the 2021 audit did not include a federal grant compliance audit. So for the next scheduled audit, the city was over that threshold of $750,000 expended in federal funds, which requires a federal grant compliance audit.
Great. Thank you, Haji. So that coupled with the rate increase difference of, I believe it's $11 per hour, accounts for that additional cost. So the federal grant compliance piece.
Okay, Councilmember Jacobson, answer your question. Okay, Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, thanks. I thought I had read a line in here, but I can't find it. So if I can find it, I will follow up with you with a question. But I just want to say thanks to the folks from the State's Auditor's Office as well as our staff for this audit. I know it makes a lot of work on both sides, especially a city like ours, and given all that was going on in 2021, it was certainly not a normal year. So I appreciate all the effort that went into not only audit, but obviously, when you get a clean audit, that's kind of what I expect. But I think everyone underestimates the amount of work that goes into getting the finances in place to get us there. So big thanks to the team for getting that done. And if I can find the line that I had a question about, which I may have invented, I will email it to you.
Very good. I don't know if this is a Wendy or Haji question, but on the audit letter, which was the engagement letter, it was signed in November of 2022. On the 4th page, it discusses delivering these results in February of 23. Can you just speak to the delay? Is that something on our end, something in the materially in the audit, something you'd like to speak to?
Right, so that was not on your end. So while working on the audit, our lead auditor did end up leaving. So we did have some staffing issues that we had to work through as well. And then we did have kind of a backload of additional work that we had to do. So that was not on your end, that was on our end. Yeah.
So we're embarking on the audit as of August of 23 for 22. We don't expect any delays in that delivery of those results?
No, so we're on track as we should be. So we're on track to finish that audit timely.
Very good. All right. Not seeing any other questions. Well, one more. Councilmember Weinberg.
Just commendations to our finance team and to the auditor team for a clean audit. Very good job.
Thanks, everyone. All right, moving on. We have the city manager's report, for which we'll welcome City Manager Jesse Bond.
Good evening, City Council. I will just give a moment here for the PowerPoint to be screen shared. Welcome back from our summer recess. All right, thank you, Casey. Council, as you know, and any community members that may be watching, I have a new executive assistant, Casey Thompson, so she is sharing the PowerPoint for me tonight. Welcome to your first council meeting, Casey. All right, next slide, please. And next one. Council, I wanted to pick up where we left off in July. We had reported to you at our last council meeting about our findings related to City Hall and the asbestos contamination. Although a decision was not made formally at that meeting based on the costs to abate City Hall, there appeared to be consensus that we would not be reopening that building, and that is the direction that I am currently working. I wanted to let you know a little bit about what the fall looks like, and much of this is still coming together, but for you all in the community, I am planning to provide our next update on City Hall on October 3rd. And Council, this is the meeting where I will be requesting action from you to formally direct me to permanently close City Hall. Excuse me. That's just something that I need to ensure that we're all rowing in the same direction. And we have lots of loose ends to tie up, like, contracts for equipment that is in the building, et cetera. Beyond that, I wanted to just call out a couple of things that are important. First of all, we had to go back to basically all of us being on Zoom because we lost our home base. We are in process of scoping, and we're getting real close, scoping the project to upgrade the Slater room at the community center where I'm working from tonight to accommodate hybrid meetings. I anticipate I'll be in front of you on September 9th with an appropriations request for that work. We did have some capital projects for City Hall included in this biennial budget. And so we obviously won't be doing that capital project work, and we can repurpose some of those funds for our other near-term needs. And I won't get into detail on all of that, but we're aiming for the first meeting in November to be able to welcome everyone back in person. I reserve the right to slide that by a date or two because we're still working with our AV company. Our highest priority right now, and it's been the highest priority for since we closed, is securing functional space for all of our work teams that are displaced. The top priority is municipal court and the police department. We are currently holding court at the City of Kirkland, and we want to say thank you again to the City of Kirkland for that. However, that is not a permanent solution or even semi-permanent. So more to come as we have all the teams working on the planning for short term. Meanwhile, just a reminder that we had already brought on an architect team to help us with our long-term planning work regarding the replacement of City Hall and the Public Works building and assessing a number of our other older buildings. So that team, along with our real estate broker and other consultants, are collaborating and getting ready for the long-term planning discussion, which has obviously been accelerated due to the unexpected closure of City Hall. So that's kind of the ground game right now. More is coming, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. So looking ahead, next slide, please, Casey. We will be on Zoom again for your next City Council meeting on September 19th. We do have boards and commissions that are also coming back from the August recess. This week, the Parks and Rec Commission will be meeting, and the Utility Board is meeting next week. All of our boards and commissions meetings are updated on our website at the link at the bottom of your screen. Next slide. Okay, a handful of city updates for you. First of all, some good news. You may recall that we have been working on a capital project on the south shoreline of Luther Burbank Park. That picture there is from the field. I think that was taken in the last couple of days. This is a shoreline restoration project that also includes a brand new trail. So in most of the location here on the lake, we pulled the trail back from the lake so that we could do the shoreline restoration work. We started in April. We've made significant progress, and I'm really excited to announce that we should be opening this trail at the end of September. So we'll let you know. Council will probably have a little ribbon cutting out at the site. It looks great. The replanting will be happening over this fall and the winter. So update on a capital project there. And I have one more capital project update. Next slide, please. Also wanted to let you know that the reservoir improvement project is underway. You may recall that we have two 4 million gallon water reservoir tanks, and both of those tanks are lined with coatings which protect the steel from corrosion. Last time we relined the tanks was 20 years ago, and we are in the process now of doing the relining again. It will take us 2 years to get through this project. We do one tank at a time. And I know if you're if you're thinking about our recent water emergency, we certainly are as well. So there will be lots of communications going out, lots of awareness and planning as we prepare to take one tank offline to reline it. If you've been by there, you can see that our contractor has started some work in preparation for the relining. They've installed new ladders on the outside of the tanks, stairways, replacing the ladders. They've added a safety railing. So work is underway, and we'll continue to have these updates as the project commences. Next slide, please. We have really been pushing out a lot of communications on this. So I wanted to say this one more time. The Town Center parking study draft is live on Let's Talk. It's been up for a little over a month now. We will be coming to you on September 19th and holding a public hearing on the draft plan to receive additional public comment before we come back to you and in a study session and receive feedback on the plan, potential revisions and changes. We anticipate adopting the Town Center parking study by the end of this year. In the meantime, while we've been working on the plan, we have some early action items the council asked us to focus on. I just wanted to make sure you know we're still working with the mobile parking payment vendor on implementation, a broader implementation in the town center, including taking over responsibilities for our parking permits. We are also looking at wayfinding or signage improvements. And finally, really excited about developing a digital map of available town center parking options. So more to come on that. This is just a shout out. If you'd like to come and provide comment, we have a public hearing on the 19th. But council, you can also encourage community members to provide comments directly through the Let's Talk page. And we've got the link there on the screen. Next slide. Just a huge shout out to our right-of-way and utility team members who have been, working just nonstop since the spring growing season and continuing to do cleanup work in our rights of way. The picture here, they've been doing some vegetation control work along Island Crest Way and in other areas. They've been working on repairing root damaged sidewalks and also a very busy time of year for street sweeping, and as the leaves start falling, even more so. We've also been doing some leak detection work around the area, and we want to say thank you to both our right-of-way and utility teams. It's been a very busy summer, and I'm only briefly skimming some of the highlights from just the last week. All right, thanks, Casey. Next slide. Council, you had an update on this in your weekly email, but I'm not sure we've shared it with the community. Our public works team did coordinate over the summer with WashDOT maintenance teams to replace 11 of the guide signs along the I-90 corridor. They were looking pretty faded and sad and old. So if you maybe haven't noticed, but they look great. The new signs are up. And they're now in compliance with current federal and state standards, which do change over time. They're also manufactured with anti-graffiti coatings like our own city signs, which make them easier to maintain in the long term. This work was completed as part of a traffic operations improvement capital project. So thank you to WashDOT for the partnership, and the signs look fantastic. Next slide. Okay, some upcoming events. It is football season, and if you know me, this is my favorite time of the year. In fact, the mayor was just showing me his Seahawks gear today, so thank you for indulging. We're adding some programming at the community center that I wanted to mention in case you'd like to drop by. We will have community coffee this coming Blue Friday, September 8th from 9:30 to 11:30 at the community center. And after coffee, we will have a rousing game of NFL bingo. So stop on by. We welcome all ages to participate. We are also doing something new and hosting a Seahawks watch party on Sunday, September 10th. So again, we encourage you to drop by the community center, watch the game. We'll have light refreshments and popcorn. Kickoff is at 1:25. I had nothing to do with this, by the way, but I think the staff know that I fully support our Seahawks. Go Hawks. All right, next slide, please. Council, I want to also highlight a really important community presentation and discussion we have coming up on Wednesday, October 4th. And before I dive into this, I want to give a shout out to Mayor Neese for helping pull this together and making some important connections with the Drug Enforcement Administration. So on Wednesday, October 4th at the Community Center from 7 to 8 p.m., we will be hosting Youth and Family Services and the Drug Enforcement Administration, who will be presenting a One Pill Can Kill Fentanyl awareness presentation to our community. This is part of a much bigger effort on the part of the schools, our police department, and the Youth and Family Services Department along with other regional, state, and federal agencies. So we're really pleased to be able to have this presentation here. You'll see lots of promotions going out ahead of the event date. And I believe Casey will be adding it to your calendars if she hasn't already. We will also have police and YFS here with information tables. So we again thank all of the parties that came together to make this happen. Scheduling was a little challenging, but we've got it on the calendar now. And I think this is a really, really important informational opportunity for our community. Next slide. All right, a few good news slides really quick, and then we'll finish it up. We have a new aid car, which we will be showing off here really soon. Last week, we had members of our fire department staff drive to Chehalis to bring the new 2024 aid unit home. It's really exciting when we get new pieces of equipment, not only just great to have new technology, but some of our equipment, because it's very specialized, has experienced supply chain issues. So we're really excited to have the new aid unit here. This new aid unit goes to Fire Station 91. The aid unit that is at 91 will rotate to 92, and then the aid unit at 92 goes into reserve. Council, we will have what we call a push-in ceremony at some point in the near future once we've got the new unit totally retrofitted with our equipment. So thanks to the team that went and picked it up, and thanks for staying on top of the acquisition. I know these acquisitions are really challenging right now. Next slide, please. Sticking on the same theme of fire, we wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our wonderful staff members and professionals that traveled to Hawaii this past month. They were part of a search and rescue operation, and they were in Hawaii for 14 days. This was Battalion Chief Sean Matheson and Lieutenant Steve McCoy. They served as part of Washington's Task Force 1 and with FEMA. They were working alongside 200 firefighters from our region. And as you can imagine, they provided just a really important service during a time of great need for friends and family in Hawaii. We currently have 5 team members that serve as part of this team, and they deploy out occasionally. So we are really proud of Battalion Chief Matheson and Lieutenant McCoy for their service. And thank you for representing Mercer Island during this very difficult time. All right, let's round it out with a happy animal rescue story. You may have seen this on our social media pages, but this one was a really special one. Our utility team found an injured hawk on the side of East Mercer Way a few weeks ago. They sprung into action knowing that it needed assistance. We got it to Paws Animal Rescue in Linwood, where they have a team that's actually dedicated to rescue and raptor rescue rehabilitation. We found out this hawk is a 2-year-old male, and they estimated he would be with them for about 8 weeks and is expected to make a full recovery. We won't probably get any additional information about where he is released, but we're told he will be released, and they hope he will find a potential mate and continue on the cycle. So thank you to our utility team members. This certainly falls into the other duties as assigned category, but what a great heads up action, and thank you for rescuing this hawk. And that is my report for this evening. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. All right, our next item of business is appearances. This is an opportunity for anyone to speak to council on any item. City Clerk, do we have anyone signed up for appearances this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, tonight's agenda will include in-person public appearances and remote public appearances via Zoom. Individuals wishing to address the council may do so in person or by Zoom or telephone, provided they've registered with the city clerk by 4 p.m. today. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be called by name. Remarks must be addressed to the council as a whole and not to individual council or staff members. As it's election season, please be reminded that state law, specifically RCW 42.17a.555, prohibits the use of city facilities for campaign-related purposes with limited exceptions. Accordingly, please do not make campaign-related comments during this time. Please speak audibly and state your name and city of residence for the record. There'll be a timer on the screen. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. When your time is ended, I'll thank you for your comments and move to the next speaker or item of business. City Clerk, please promote the first speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first speaker tonight is Addie Smith. Ms. Smith does not appear to be in the meeting, so we'll move to our second speaker tonight. Our second speaker tonight is Kelly Farnsworth.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay. Hi, my name's Kelly Farnsworth. I'm from Seattle. I grew up on the east side since 1966. I'm the one who put on Fun Fest this year, and I wanted to take this opportunity to first thank you for letting me come here. But I also wanted to say thank you for granting the permit for the fireworks show that was a kind of an experimental from an indoor event to an outdoor event. And I was throwing everything in the kitchen sink at this event to see what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. And we found out right away that the remedy for this problem, because we ran into technical difficulties with internet and also setting up a 4-story movie screen, and also with the power consumption out there, and everything just kept getting delayed. And I felt like I was on a submarine trying to plug a hole, and everybody yelling at me, going, and the pressure was on, and I literally didn't know what time or even what day it was, because it took almost 24 hours straight to set up the event. And I am completely, to the bottom of my heart, sorry for letting everyone down. You gave me an opportunity to do something wonderful, and all of a sudden, I turned it into a huge mess for everybody. And I can just tell you this, that won't happen again. What we did was we did a fireworks show after a movie that I put on this whole event myself out of my own pocket. No checks except, to leave your checkbook at home. It's just something, I've been sober 40 years and it's my way to give back. And what ended up happening was it got to the point where we were able to figure everything out after it was over, that we would obviously do the fireworks show before the movie, because I give away a Tesla lease to the audience, somebody in the audience, a free raffle, so they can drive a Tesla to their AA meetings, for a year on me. And that's going to be the hook that's going to keep them there. So it's not going to be the fireworks. The fireworks were kind of like an enhancement while I'm singing these clean and sober songs that are popular, where I change the words to them. And while I'm singing those, the fireworks were in the background. And I can certainly do that before the movie. When we did the fireworks afterwards, it really complicated everything on how much time the movie's going to last and everything else. By doing the fireworks before and the concert before, it makes it wide open for us to basically pick any movie that we want and pay the royalties for. So again, I am so sorry, and that won't happen again, and I apologize.
Thank you. Thank you. Just delivered a masterclass and an apology. So duly noted. Thank you. Are there any other public appearances?
There are no further speakers tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll move to our next item of business, which is approval of the consent agenda, which is a little bit long because of the August recess, so bear with me. The consent agenda contains AB 6316, July 14, 2023 payroll certification, AB 6317, July 28, 2023 payroll certification, AB 6318, August 11, 2023 payroll certification, AB 6319, August 25, 2023 payroll certification, certification of claims for July 13, 21, 28, and August 4, 18, and 25, and certification of electronic funds transfers for June and July 2023. City Council meeting minutes of July 18 special hybrid meeting and July 28 special hybrid meeting, AB 6320, National Preparedness Month Proclamation number 313, AB 6321, National Recovery Month Proclamation number 314, AB 6322, Peace Day on Mercer Island Proclamation number 315, AB 6323, No Islander Goes Hungry Day Proclamation number 316, AB 6324, second reading of ordinance number 23C-11, parentheses, renews ordinance number 21C-23, close parentheses, on interim regulations in MICC 19.16.010 related to emergency shelters and housing, transitional housing, and permanent supportive housing in response to E2 SHB 1220. AB 6338, a letter of support for Department of Commerce grant funding for HB 1110 and HB 1337 implementation. Council may have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Jacobson, seconded by Councilmember Weicker. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Reynolds. Deputy Mayor
Aye.
Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobson.
Aye.
Councilmember Androl.
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
Mayor Neese.
Aye.
And Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, motion passes. Our first item of regular business is AB 6329, which is the city manager annual performance review. And council, as you'll note in your packet, there is a letter that the council has drafted along with me. This is something that we've been working on since earlier this year. And this is, of course, is the council's once a year opportunity to review the performance of a city employee, their only city employee, the city manager. There is a motion, but before we get to any motion on this, I want to open it up to the council to see if any council members want to have any, express any thoughts on the process or the performance of our city manager. And I will open it up to Councilmember Weicker.
So I'll just kick us off with a huge thank you, Jesse. You've dealt with one disaster after another, and somehow along the way you managed to have some fun and lead not only our city staff, but work with our leadership on the council Hill so well and effectively. And I can't thank you enough for all your dedicated service to this community and your staff and this council. So just a heartfelt thank you, and keep up the great work. And we are so grateful to have you.
Very good. Councilmember Andrew.
Thanks. Yeah, Wendy said it very well, but Jesse, I think most of your work this year has been other duties as required. It was all a bunch of curveballs that weren't expected, but you handled everything that was normally going to be done and everything that was abnormal with aplomb. And we really, really appreciate your service. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Jacobson.
All of those were motions by my colleagues, I'd second them. And I think we're very blessed to have such a superb city manager. And we are a much better place because of all the things that you've done, Jesse. And you've been an inspiration, I think, to the council and to our community to do the things we need to do to be a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Reynolds.
I would just say, as the mayor noted, we have only one employee that reports to us. If you've only got one, you better make it a good one. And I think we've done that. So a big thank you to the city manager for being a model of professionalism and hard work and an inspiration to us, and a great educator to us and to the staff, and a great leader. I think you make everyone around you better, which is what a good boss should do.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, I wish I put my hand up first because I think everyone's said everything that I would like to say. I'll be quicker next year. I just want to say thanks, Jesse. I get a chance to work with you a lot, and I'm always impressed by your ability to juggle innumerable projects at the same time that are varied, both in scope, complexity, but also just issue area with the city. There's a tremendous amount that goes on behind the scenes that most people don't see. And it takes a tremendous amount of organization, passion, dedication, commitment, and you do it all tremendously well, and also have a wonderful family that I know takes a lot of effort. So thank you so much. I'm happy to read a motion, but it looks like Councilmember Weinberg has also raised his hand, so I will hold off on that.
Councilmember Weinberg.
I just want to echo what my colleagues have said, and excellent work. It's a pleasure to work with you.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum, you want to make the motion?
Sure. I move that we accept the city manager, Jesse Bond's performance review and award $5,000 to the Employee Recognition Program for her work, June 2022 through May 2023.
Second.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum, seconded by Councilmember Jacobson. You want to speak any more to the motion?
I think everything that I would say has been said, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I would just add to this is generally the highlight of my year. I start this process early on, all the way back in April, hounding Jesse for the work plan and the reconciliation of what the council had asked the city manager to do over the course of a 12-month period or longer. And we begin this process with council and executive and public meetings to do this review. And it's always an opportunity to look back at all the things that have been done and all the things that were done that weren't planned to have been done. And it really just is a pleasure to be able to look back at that and see the ground that you've covered, the grace in which you've done it, and the flexibility that you bring to the organization. Makes being mayor easy, makes me look good, I'm sure. So I'll turn it over to you real quickly before we call the roll.
I have to say, I think this is year 4 or 5 as your city manager, and I'm still not used to having performance reviews in public meetings. But thank you really from my heart for the kind words. I think I approach this job. I care a lot about the city. This is my home too, and it's really just been an honor to have the opportunity to serve in this way. I will tell you, a successful city manager comes with an amazing staff. And I have one of the best, in the whole Pacific Northwest. And I need to give them a shout out because what has been a pretty steady bucking bronco the last few years has meant that we've all had to adapt and change. So my thanks to them for making me look good and supporting me and putting up with me even. That means a lot. And council, I need to say this to you too. We make a great team. We don't always agree. We definitely have different ideas, but I'm really proud of the way the city is working. And I hope you are too. It's my performance is also a reflection on all of you. We've been able to accomplish a lot because of your leadership as well. So it's an honor to be here tonight. I want to thank Mayor Neese. This was a hard process. He steps in and he leads it. And then in the midst of all this, we had closed City Hall. And so he was really worried that I was going to be upset about getting the performance review done. And we finally just had to say, put it off. We have too much else going on. So, thank you, Salim, for the time you put into this. I'm not sure if that is visible to everyone, but it means a lot to me that you invest in me in the process in that way. So thank you. And thank you to the entire council and the staff for the great collaboration.
Thank you. Very good. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobson.
Aye.
Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
And Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Our next item of regular business is AB 6326, which is Board and Commission Vacancy Appointments, Resolution number 1647. Council, Section 8.12 of Council Rules and Procedures provides that appointments to the city's boards and commissions be made by vote of the City Council during a regularly scheduled meeting, and that each council member will complete written ballot casting a vote for the identified open seat on a board or commission. The applicant that receives the most votes, provided they have received a minimum of 4 votes, will be appointed to the vacant seat of Arts Council. The name of the applicant selected will be added to resolution number 1647 with final approval required by the vote of the City Council. Since the City Council is participating in the meeting via Zoom, the City Clerk will send email ballots to council members. Council members will then return the ballots to the City Clerk, naming their candidate of choice. The City Clerk will tally the votes and read aloud the votes at the outcome of the vote. The election is to fill 1 vacant position of the Arts Council, position number 3, expiring May 31, 2026. City Clerk, can you please distribute the ballots to the City Council at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The ballots have been sent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The votes have been tallied. Councilmember Andral, Councilmember Jacobson, Mayor Neese, Councilmember Weicker, and Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum voted for JB Gibson. Councilmember Reynolds voted for June Mani Franklin. And Councilmember Weinberg voted for Leslie Madsen. JB Gibson is appointed to the Arts Council position.
Okay, congratulations to JB Gibson. Thank you for the other applicants. City Clerk, do you have an opportunity to compile that into the resolution?
I do. I just need 30 seconds, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the resolution has been sent to the City Council.
Okay. Council, you should have a copy of the resolution in your inbox at this time. Just double check in. Okay, next we have the adoption of resolution number 1647, appointing a member to fill the vacancy of the Arts Council. City Clerk, can you please read the appointment section of the resolution number 1647?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Mercer Island as follows. Section 1, Appointment of Arts Council. Pursuant to MICC 3.55.030C, the City Council hereby appoints the following individual to the Mercer Island Arts Council for the designated term set forth herein. JB Gibson, position number 3, term expires May 31, 2026.
Very good. Council, is there a motion to adopt resolution number 1647?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Jacobson, seconded by Councilmember Reynolds. Any discussion? Not seeing any. Please call the roll, City Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Jacobson.
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
And Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. The motion passes. Our next item of regular business is AB 6328, change of City Council meeting location, ordinance number 23C-13, for which we will again welcome City Clerk Andrea Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Mercer Island City Code defines the regular meeting place of the City Council as City Hall. Since April, when City Hall closed, all meetings of the City Council have been noticed as special meetings. Noticing a meeting as a special meeting adds an additional layer of legal requirements to the meeting. Tonight before you is ordinance number 23C-13, which amends Mercer Island City Code 2.06.020 to establish the regular meeting place of the City Council as the Mercer Island Community and Event Center.
Very good. Council, are there any questions? Not seeing any. Council, is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 23C-13, amending MICC 2.06.020 to establish the regular meeting place of the City Council as the Mercer Island Community and Event Center, 8236 Southeast 24th Street, Mercer Island, Washington, or at such other places City Council may designate and direct at a previous meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Weinberg, seconded by Councilmember Reynolds. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum,
Aye.
Mayor Neese,
Aye.
Councilmember Andral,
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker,
Aye.
and Councilmember Jacobson.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect. Motion passes. Our next item of regular business is AB 6327, financial status update for second quarter 2023 and budget amending ordinance, for which we'll welcome Finance Director Matt Mornick.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Neese and City Council and City Manager Bond. I'm Matt Mornick, your Finance Director. Do you see my opening slide?
Sure can.
Great. Okay. So this evening, I'm going to go through about 17 slides to review key takeaways from the city's finances based on the first 6 months of 2023. We're going to begin with an overview of what's happened with the budget, actuals through the first 6 months in the city's general fund and the utility funds, what trends we're keeping a close eye on as we enter the mid-biennial budget this fall, and details related to the budget amending ordinance. We're going to wrap up with an overview of the mid-biennial budget schedule, along with some next steps. I'm going to pause along the way and natural breaks for questions. So please take note of which slide you may have a question for. The staff team is here and ready to answer your questions. I just want to thank financial analyst Ben Schumacher, the public works team, and Deputy Finance Director Lawan Tuttle for their time and energy helping pull together this financial status update. This table is a summary of revenues and expenditures from the general fund and the 3 utilities, the water, sewer, and stormwater funds. From left to right, revenue and expenditure actuals for the first 6 months of last year are included for reference. The next column is the 2023 amended budget with the revenue and expenditure actuals through the end of June 2023, and the next column. The final column to the right compares revenue and expenditure actuals relative to the 2023 amended budget. In the top row, general fund revenues are tracking strong through the midway point of the year, while expenditures are on track with budget estimates. Transitioning to the utility funds, I want to correct a misstatement in the executive summary of the agenda bill. We explained that utility revenues are up $980,000 relative to June of the prior year. Compared to the prior year, revenues in the utility funds are in fact up 1.6 million, as expressed in the table on this slide. So of this amount, $980,000 is tied to the utility rate increase that the utility board and the city council adopted in the 23-24 biennial budget, which went into effect January 1st of this year. The remaining $700,000 is tied to interest earnings that are notably exceeding budget estimates across all funds, which I'll speak to later in the presentation. Expenditures in the utility funds are on track with budget expectations. As we've observed in the first half of previous years, expenses are traditionally low. Capital project managers typically complete pre-construction work so that the summer and fall come around, the construction related to major infrastructure improvements can actually get underway. As we review data for the first 6 months of 2023, we discern 2 key drivers impacting general fund revenues relative to what we've observed in prior years. So the first that we've noticed is that construction activity on the island is driving revenues related to community planning and development services, as well as sales tax. Staff estimate that it's related to 2 high valuation projects, the Riot Games building renovations and construction that's related to the King County Pump Station and North Mercer sewer upgrades. Excuse me. Second, changes to the Federal Reserve policy rate over the past 16 months has had a pretty precise impact on the city's investment earnings. This line graph outlines sales tax monthly revenue activity for the construction sector for the first 6 months of this year, indicated by the green line, and the 4 prior years. Tracking the yellow line for 2022, you'll notice that revenues began to surpass historical trends in September and remain high through June of this year. Staff confirmed that the King County Pump Station project broke ground last year, and work on the Riot Games facility began January of this year, and both work on these projects is ongoing. We cannot definitively attribute this rise in sales tax revenue to these 2 projects because of the nature of the data that we get from the Department of Revenue. It doesn't include the volume of sales. Still, we're tracking this trend, and it's going to inform the updated revenue forecast coming to the City Council next month. For the first 6 months of 2023, interest earnings amount to $1.1 million, greatly exceeding budget expectations. This amount far exceeds interest earnings at this point in the year relative to the past 2 years. So aside from the cash on hand that's required for paying bills and managing the city's day-to-day operations, the city invests in the Washington State Local Government Investment Pool. Interest earned on the combined total cash that's invested is allocated to the operating funds and reserves based on the respective balances at the end of each quarter. So for example, if the water fund balance makes up 20% of the city's total investments, 20% of interest earnings go back to the water fund at the end of the quarter. So this graphic is for illustrating activity from June 20 through 2023. And it depicts interest rates for the local government investment pool, illustrated by the blue line relative to the Federal Reserve's federal funds target rates. That's illustrated by the dashed black line. The immediate takeaway is the LGIP earning rate nearly mirrors the Federal Reserve's federal fund target rates. So from left to right, you can see that the LGIP earnings rate was just below 0.5% in June 2020 and remained there through June 2022. During the same period, the target rate for the Federal Reserve is next to 0. Then we see the LGIP earnings increase to just over 5% as of June of this year. So within a 12-month period, the earnings rate increased over 4%. And so this is a rate of change that we did not and really could not budget for. But in hindsight, this tracks because during this period, the LGIP was primarily invested in U.S. Treasuries and U.S. government agencies, which tie to the Federal Reserve's federal funds rate. As of June, expenditures in the general fund are on par with budget expectations. When compared to the prior year, the increased spending that we see is associated with the higher staffing levels in police and fire and parks and recreation, along with the corresponding increased employee compensation costs that are tied to the rate of inflation. Setting aside the general fund, this slide provides just a general update on activity related to the real estate excise tax, which is the primary revenue source that supports the city's street and capital funds. Revenues for the first 6 months of the year are down by nearly $340,000 relative to the prior year. And this is largely tied to current market conditions. What we're seeing on Mercer Island is that there's a lower volume of property sales and that there's nearly a 10% reduction in the average sales price for most home sales, which include homes that sell for under $5 million. We're closely tracking REIT, and we will update the council with revised projections during the revenue forecast in October. So I'm happy to pause here for any questions related to the material we've covered so far.
Okay. Council, any questions? Councilmember Reynolds?
Mr. Morta, can you just comment? Obviously we know inflation is very bad for the city budget, but if we ignore that effect and just focus on interest rates, it seems like it's been a clear win for us in the investment earnings. Are there any ways in which the high interest rates are bad for the city? So for example, do we have any floating rate debt or anything like that that would be going the other way?
I can't really speak to the floating rate debt, but I can say that the current debt obligations that we have are fixed rates, and they're minor. And so where we really see the impacts of inflation are in our employee compensation costs, and that makes total sense given the collective bargaining agreements currently in place. But as you can see, there's also the flip side to that, and how we've invested our money and the community's money, and how that has reaped interest earnings that have benefited all of the city's funds.
But if you were to isolate the effect, the interest earnings are not going to be nearly as great as the pickup in interest earnings would not compensate to the inflationary effect on salaries even close, correct?
I would have to go back and dive into that question. It's a great question, but I would hesitate to speculate on it.
Okay, thank you.
So tagging along to that, Matt, obviously sales tax would have an impact with the inflation as the cost of goods goes up. I don't know if you're modeling that at all to try and figure out how much is increased activity versus just increased prices.
Right, and we usually see the inflation gets passed along to consumers through prices. But we unfortunately can't discern that from the data that we have access to, because we can't gauge a lot of the proprietary information from businesses that would help us figure that out. So we're seeing that sales tax is really strong. It's keeping pace, if not exceeding the current pace of inflation, at least of what we've observed for the first 6 months of the year. And we're going to see how things shake out through in the next few months, which is going to inform what we're going to project for 2024 in the next biennium.
Excellent. Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, Matt, question for you here. It feels like whenever we talk about sales tax, a lot of the answers are, that we just don't get the data from the state at the level of the questions that are being asked. Is there any push to get that change? I mean, what is that on the radar? Is that something they're planning, or is this something they're like, this is the level of data that you can expect going forward?
I don't really see much opportunity for us to get more insights, because what we would need to get our hands on is essentially proprietary information. How much goods are being sold for, the price increases related to those goods, and the volume of total sales within a specific period of time. And that's not information that businesses readily provide. And so the data that we do get is good. And we have spent quite a bit of time just understanding it and parsing it out in a way that we can track it. And so as you've seen in the exhibit 1, we've broken up sales tax activity by sectors, and we can really track by detail what's going on within a given sector. And we actually are using that data to inform how we're projecting sectors are going to react in the future. And so the line graph I shared earlier regarding the construction sector is just kind of a sample of the kind of data that we're getting. So I'm pretty pleased with the analysis that we've done, and it's evolved over the years. We're getting better. We're getting better data or better information out of the data that we have, and we've gotten better at using it.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilmember Reynolds. Old hand?
It's an old hand, sorry.
Going back to sales tax, Matt, I've mentioned it over the years as out-of-state collections of sales tax have come online. More and more vendors are remitting our taxes to us, particularly for online sales. Is that something that you think has peaked, or is there still a little lift left in that?
Ooh, I wish I knew. I do think there was a fundamental change when we look at the data with the legislation that passed in 2019 at the state level which allowed the appropriation, the allocation of sales tax revenues for online sales back to point of origin of where the purchase was made. So I think the cities in the region we've seen a fundamentally positive impact from that legislation. And whether or not it's going to continue to increase is I just don't know.
Very good. All right, not seeing any more. Please carry on.
Okay. Exhibit 2 of the agenda item is budget amending ordinance number 2312. And it outlines in detail the budget adjustments that the city council has approved since the previous ordinance, excuse me, staff brought to the council back in mid-May. So most of the items in ordinance 2312 predominantly include the decisions that the city council made during the planning session on May 23rd of this year. And so during the planning session, the city council invested just over $1.4 million in near and long-term initiatives. So the ordinance details those budget appropriations. But in general, the city council approved nearly $900,000 across 15 budget proposals to further current and new efforts related to the 2023 and 2024 biennial budget work plan. Another $220,000 was committed to fast track early action items related to the city's climate action plan. And finally, over $350,000 went to replenishing city reserves and reaching the target fund balance goals for key operating funds. Most of the budget proposals and early action items that I just mentioned were strategically funded via the city's ARPA funds. So should the council adopt the ordinance this evening, the remaining balance of ARPA dollars is just north of $1 million. We will cover potential uses of the remaining ARPA funds during the upcoming mid-biennial budget process this fall. And this is just to update the city council regarding the opioid settlement dollars that in October 2022, the state attorney general confirmed that the state of Washington will receive over $500 million from pharmaceutical manufacturers and pharmacies that were found to have played key roles in fueling the opioid epidemic. Payments to the state, to the county, and local governments began in December of 2022. And these payments are going to be paid over the next 17 years. To date, Mercer Island has received just over $40,000, and these funds are currently held in reserve in the general fund. So the city must spend the settlement money on approved uses. We have to keep record of our spending and file reports on an annual basis with the settlement administrator. So later this month, the YFS team is going to present to council for consideration their recommendations for how best to use settlement dollars on behalf of the Mercer Island community. Okay, so this coming fall marks the halfway point of the 2023-2024 biennium. So this schedule outlines major touch points between staff, the utility board, and city council to update key elements of the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. In September and October, staff is meeting with the utility board, seeking their good thinking on utility rates for 2024, as well as provide them with an update on a bond issuance scheduled early next year to facilitate major improvements for the water utility. In mid-October, staff will present the revenue forecast for the city's primary funds, and this will inform the city council on how staff anticipates revenues are going to track with expenditures as we enter 2024 and prepare for the next biennium. So we will look to review and finalize budget adjustments by the end of November and beginning of December. Our recommendation tonight is for the city council to adopt ordinance number 23-12, amending the 2023-2024 biennial budget as outlined in Exhibit 2. And with that, I will stop sharing, and staff team is here and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Very good. Council, any questions? No? All right, council, is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 23-12, amending the 2023-2024 biennial budget?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Councilmember Weicker, seconded by Councilmember Weinberg. Any discussion? Councilmember Weicker.
I just want to thank Matt for his great work always and making it look so easy to do what he's doing. And I know it's not that easy. So I just appreciate your hard work, Matt.
Thank you. Anything else? Not seeing any. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Jacobson.
Aye.
Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Andral.
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
And Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. We now move to other business in the planning schedule, for which we welcome City Manager Jesse Bond.
Good evening again, City Council. Looking ahead, your next meeting is September 19th. I just wanted to reiterate what I shared at the opening of the meeting during my city manager report, that we are working on upgrading the technology in the Slater room here at the community center where I'm based out of this evening, so that we can have in-person meetings again. We are aiming for the first meeting in November. I will certainly let you and the community know if that changes. Wanted to mention that October 3rd, I will be adding an executive session, a pretty sizable one, probably 2 hours on the front side of the agenda. So if you could let me know if there's any scheduling conflicts on that date. The calendar has not been updated yet. I also wanted to mention that November 7th is election night. We typically move the meeting from that night, and I haven't found a perfect alternative, either Monday or the Wednesday, due to all of your availability. So I'll be talking with the mayor and deputy mayor about our options when we have our leadership meeting next week. And I do want to say this, one alternative is just to keep it on election night and keep the agenda short. So I'll be getting back to all of you and trying to figure out an option for that meeting night. And that is all I have this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you. All right, Council, are there any upcoming absences to report? No. Then we'll turn to Councilmember reports. First, we'll go to Councilmember Anderall. Anything to report?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Jacobson.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember, I have nothing to report. Councilmember Reynolds.
Nothing to report.
All right. Councilmember Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Nothing to report. Good to see everyone again.
Did he eat anything?
Yeah, I'll just say on the 7th, Thursday, is the SCA networking event in Renton. Hopefully you guys can make it, at least some of us. Great to be there in person and get to know our colleagues in the region.
Yeah. Councilmember Weinberg.
Save the date for Thursday, the 26th of October, the 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Come to the Community and Events Center to join the city staff and 20 Mercer Island host families and the Sister City Association board in officially welcoming to the island the delegation of 20 teenage diplomats from our sister city in Saint-Laurent. Details to come.
Perfect. All right, the next hybrid meeting of the City Council is scheduled for Tuesday, September 19, 2023 at 5 p.m. The time is now 6:26 p.m. The City Council will go into executive session for approximately 60 minutes for planning and adopting the strategy or position to be taken by the City Council during the course of any collective bargaining, professional negotiations or grievance or mediation proceedings, or reviewing the proposals made in the negotiations or proceedings while in progress pursuant to RCW 42.30.140, paren 4, close paren, paren little b, close paren, to discuss with legal counsel litigation or potential litigation to which the city is or is likely to become a party pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, paren 1, close paren, paren little I, close paren. As a reminder to the City Council, please stay seated until the city staff has terminated the broadcast. Good evening, and thanks everyone for joining us.